Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords, and today I am here to talk to you about a number of things. First off, though, some of you have pointed out to me that I think it's Star Adventurer and the Old School Companion 1 on drive-thru are not showing POD options. I've talked to Spectre Press about that. They, after a bit of effort, got an email back saying that this is a temporary thing that should only last a couple of days. When I first saw this that was on Sunday, so we'll see. Maybe by the time this airs, it's already resolved. But thank you to everybody who pointed that sort of thing out to me. Temporary thing, okay. And second of all, let me tell you guys about something I've been predicting for a while now. You guys who have been regularly watching me, and by the way, we're getting close to 6,000 subscribers. So when we do, I'll probably do a 6,000 subscriber live stream. If you haven't subscribed yet, check out this video. And if you like it, please subscribe and share this video anywhere that other people will find it interesting or get pissed off by it. Either way is good with me. And like the video. That's always a great way to help me out. Anyways, we're getting close to 6,000 subscribers. And when I do, I'll do a live stream again like I usually do every 1,000 subscribers. But today, what I've been talking about in a lot of my videos in the past is that recently I've been hearing this over and over again, right? That the sales of 5th edition books had been gradually declining for the last good while. And now, a few days ago, the third quarter corporate report of Hasbro, including Wizards, came out. And it turns out that Hasbro is losing a lot of, it's doing badly, let's put it that way. And that among what is doing badly is Wizards of the Coast. And this is, because they've got like a $60 million shortfall. And out of this, Dungeons and Dragons could be anything from maybe about 9 or 10 million all the way up to 60 million. Those 60 million would be that would mean that all of the shortfall in Wizards is due to D&D. So I'm not saying that. I'm sure actually, considering that proportionally speaking, Magic is much bigger, probably an important part of the shortfall comes from there, right? But without a doubt, an important part comes from Dungeons and Dragons. And I've now, with some insider information from people with connections, I can say very safely that I have heard that the last several products have had really big issues with their sales, right? That specifically, that would be, Strixhaven and the Radiant Citadel have had really, really crappy sales, especially of the physical books. So this is a sign that the brokening of D&D is finally happening, right? I mean, because people were saying, well, D&D has been going woke gradually, but with increasing velocity since at least like Curse of Strahd, right? Where they've been increasingly making the content of their books more and more about virtue signaling and leftist ideology, indoctrination and propaganda than about the actual game. Up until where they basically everything after, say, Candlekeep, which was still almost just nominally a real product, and Ravenloft, which was a intentional deconstruction of what Ravenloft was meant to be, right? Where basically people with dark gifts aren't necessarily evil, and Dark Lords can't be evil either because there's no such thing as evil. And the important thing about Ravenloft is that it be adventures in the style of Scooby-Doo and have, a lot of diverse representation, right? And you've got to have, Sherlock Holmes in a wheelchair with a gay boyfriend, stuff like that. That's what matters about Ravenloft, right? So like in all of these products, they, those were still at least had like some modicum of actual adventuring. And then you get to stuff like Strixhaven or the Radiant Citadel, or Well Beyond the Witchlight, which is the one with the magic carnival of whimsy, right? Where a huge part of the content is not just not adventuring, but counter-adventuring, right? Saying, no, your job isn't to be an adventurer. Your job is to have like the prom at the magical school, right? And that's the adventure, right? And your adventure is to deal with a problem in a night market where you're going to have to go into doing an eating contest, right? Because the person that wrote this doesn't actually write RPG books, they write cookbooks, right? And they were just hired as a nepotistic hire by the guy who also has hardly any writing experience that was put in charge of the Radiant Citadel, right? That's what it's been reduced to, right? And this is all intentional. It's an intentional deconstruction. It's the attempt to destroy the oppressiveness of RPGs by making RPGs into something not RPGs or not D&D anyways, to destroy the classic model of what a D&D adventurer is supposed to do, right? Like, why shouldn't our D&D adventurer fight evil, right? Like, that's not even a thing. There's no such thing as evil, right? So a D&D adventurer should work in a coffee shop, and have to have, fill out orders for people at Starbucks, but it's Starbucks in a fantasy world. But the fantasy world is basically Seattle in 2022. It's just that they have magic instead of technology, but they have all of the same political values, right? They're absolute hard leftists in a pre-industrial society with magic in it, and literal people that are like godlike in power, right? But that's that's totally okay, because I'm sure that those people they really care deep down about the peasantry, right? All peasants matter. But anyways, they're wrecking all of this. And people were saying, well, but what about the sales, right? Because there were still good sales going on. And, this is because of a couple of things. They had been pushing a dual model of promotion, right? First of all. So what you had was that on Twitter, on social media, when, remember, only a tiny percentage of people who play D&D spend a lot of time reading about D&D on social media. They don't usually have a ton of D&D themed social media. Only the most hardcore people do. And disproportionately, those people will tend to be more on the hard left end of the spectrum than what you're going to see in normal gamers, the gamers who don't actually spend all their time looking at tweets or Facebook posts about gaming, right? People just play D&D once a week or twice a week or whatever, or once a month with their buddies, right? Those people are not, as a rule, ultra progressives, right? They're not CRT fanatics or anything like that, right? They're not the type of people that would support Alejandro Ocasio-Cortez, right? So to the people that are on the social media, Wizards has been going hard with each product, talking about how this product is diversity, right? How this product shows representation, how this product has no white people were involved in the making of this product. That was literally part of their sales pitch in the Radiant Citadel, right? Where they were talking about how this is a product, but done all by designers of color. At long last, right? We've liberated D&D from having white people, and therefore now we have true diversity, because diversity means less race people. We want to have one less race, that makes it diverse. That's true racial justice. It's definitely not segregation, right? Anyway, they're advertising it that way on Twitter. But if you looked at the Radiant Citadel book, and it's the same thing with any of these other books, you look at the back cover, right? You look at the stuff that a kid that goes into a Barnes & Noble, or someone who can only judge based on the blurb on Amazon, like what it shows in the description for Amazon, which is usually basically what your back cover blurb. It doesn't talk about it like that at all. Like in Radiant Citadel on Twitter, it's all about, the night market and women and trans people of color, and Del Dia de los Muertos being about pagan, Aztec worship, and you have Eat, Pray, Love, and Radiant Citadel is a socialist government where no one owns property, and it isn't evil democracy. It's run by consensus-based governance and all of that stuff, right? That's what you hear on Twitter for the ultra leftists. The person who's trying to buy the book because it's a new D&D book, but they're just like at Barnes & Noble or on Amazon or something like that, right? Their back cover blurb there says, This is a super cool multiplanar setting of this super fantastic city in the middle of the ethereal plane, and there's all these portals that go to other places, and each one of them has super cool adventures, right? And you're going to get new powers and new items and stuff. Like it's selling it as though it was a normal game for normal gamers, right? So idiots, well, no, not idiots, people who've been fooled, right? Because they to some degree, you should be pretty wary by now if you're a D&D fan and you get to Radiant Citadel and you end up deciding to buy that after you bought, say, Strixhaven or Wild Beyond the Witchlight, right? Because by now that you should know there's something deeply wrong with Wizards of the Coast and the people working at it, that somehow things have gone askew there and what they're producing now is garbage. But let's say you get fooled again, right? You see the back cover, you go, oh, this seems more normal than those other ones. It's not a magic school. It's not a carnival. It's an actual, like Planescape, right? It's kind of like Planescape, right? Well, yeah, it is. It's Venezuelan Planescape. So then they buy it and they get fooled by it, right? And they're still buying into it. But what's become very clear now is that apparently there have been a couple of very big dips, which was probably... People bought, which one was first? Wild Beyond the Witchlight was before Strixhaven, if I remember it correctly, right? And so they bought Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and that one was still having okay numbers, a little bit lower than the previous, than Ravenloft and whatever, because they were always dropping a little bit, but nothing too significant. But then with that one, people said, okay, this is just kind of getting stupid, right? And so that the numbers dropped quite a bit from them to Strixhaven, and then it dropped quite a bit again to Radiant Citadel. These books are just staying on the shelves. They're not being bought on Amazon, right? They're not succeeding. And yeah, I mean, the next one was supposed to be Spelljammer, and apparently Spelljammer hasn't even come out yet. I found out this recently as well. I think the OG Gamer talked about it, and that they haven't even been able to put it out because of the whole absolutely ridiculous Hadozi controversy, right? So it's been delayed. It hasn't even come out as of yet. And Dragonlance is going to come later. And this is, again, here you might see with Spelljammer and Dragonlance, first of all, the fact that they're going to these classic titles again is indicatory that they're using this. It's a skin suit, right? Like this isn't really Spelljammer. This is absolutely a group of leftist maniacs have murdered Spelljammer, peeled off its skin, and are wearing it as a mask to try to trick you into letting them into the house, right? And it's the same thing with Dragonlance, even more so. I've been insisting. Dragonlance is going to be like the Last Jedi of D&D products, because there's nothing that these people hate more than Dragonlance. Remember that they tried so hard to stop Weiss and Hickman from being able to do a novel that Weiss and Hickman had to sue them to let Weiss and Hickman make money for Wizards, right? That's how bad it got. They despise Dragonlance because it is, of all D&D settings, the one that is the most based on the idea of this archetypal struggle of good and evil, right? It's the one that's the most based on these kind of moralistic, this kind of morality story, and it's based on Christian concepts, albeit Mormon ones, because Dragonlance is very much based on Mormon mythology. It literally has golden discs and everything. But, Hickman and Weiss are, or were, I don't know if they both still are Mormons. So, but all of that makes psychopathic, totalitarian, Stalinists, which is the people running Wizards nowadays, it makes them absolutely hate Dragonlance. So what they're going to do is they're going to produce this thing that they're going to call Dragonlance, and it's actually going to be a complete butchering of everything, every single thing they can think of that Dragonlance fans would like. That's the goal. And yet it's probably still going to sell a little bit better because it's Dragonlance. People say, oh, Dragonlance, they're going to buy that, right? But the floor keeps, they're going to keep hitting the floor in this. They're just going to keep dropping as people start increasingly distrusting these woke products. It's very telling, of course, as I mentioned in my previous video, that you've got the head of D&D was Ray Winninger, who was a game designer, right? He was put in, not Jeremy Crawford, interestingly, to replace Mike Merles, right? They didn't want Jeremy to run things for some reason, which is already interesting. Winninger leaves, and then they bring in a couple of new people into Wizards of the Coast in general, and then specifically into D&D, the vice president of D&D, who are people that have almost that they don't have any game design experience. One of them claims to be a gamer. I don't think the other one does. I don't know. They come from like Microsoft, right? These are not game design people. They're not being put in there because they're hardcore SJW leftists. So I'm sure that they are, generally speaking, Democrat voters. I mean, they work for Bill Gates, and they used to, and they live in Silicon Valley, right? These are not going to be people who are going to be wearing MAGA hats to work or something like that, right? But they weren't hired for their political credentials. They were hired because they are specialists in making game products that sell you avatars for $1.99 or whatever, like get a new hat for your VTT character for this much, right? And that tells you where Wizards is saying our priority is with Dungeons and Dragons now. It's not going to be about, I did a video about this already. It's not going to be about the tabletop experience. It's going to be about the virtual tabletop experience and about the lifestyle brand, and especially it's going to be about making deals for TV shows or movies if they can. That's what they're hoping to achieve. Anyways, we'll see. A lot of that'll depend on whether that D&D movie collapses or not. But again, Jeremy Crawford was passed over, and the thing is, I think that this is probably a sign. And now they can't keep pretending. No, our Strixhaven was super successful. Because people want that setting. It had nothing to do with it just being inertia from D&D. No. Now it's becoming very evident, right? These products, the more woke they get, the less successful that they make the next product be. Because people are dumb enough to buy the first product, but then the next one, they say, I'm not going to be fooled twice, right? So every time there's a group of people that are basically saying, this is the last Wizards product I will ever purchase because of how the wokists have ruined it, right? So that is happening to the tune of somewhere between $10 and $60 million. And you might say, well, yeah, but Hasbro's a giant corporation. What the hell does it matter? Right? Or you could also say, I'm sure I'm going to get some leftist argument. No, but actually Wizards did really, really well. It still made a ton of money. And that's true. Yeah, they did make a ton of money, but you're thinking like a normal person thinks. You're not using the model of corporate capitalism. And the model of corporate capitalism is something very different. See, let's say you're running a little side business or something. Let's say you have $1,000 of expenses, and then you have $1,500 of earnings. So that means you made a $500 income. That's not too bad, right? So you as far as you'd consider, that would probably be a pretty good success, right? Who wouldn't be happy with that, right? And then the next month, you have $1,000 expenses, and you only make a $1,400 income. So that's a $400 profit. And you'd be like, yeah, well, that's still pretty good. Sure, why not, right? And then maybe you do that a couple of times, and then maybe after you do 100, you make $600 profit, and then maybe you do $300 profit, right? And all of it is still profit. You're making money every month, right? That's how most people say, well, that's all right, as long as you're making enough to get by, that's all right. But that's not how it works for a corporation. For a corporation, the important thing is growth. It's not about maintaining profit, much less still making profit, but less. Once you get into the I'm still making money, just less, that's where you start to get axed. Like, people have made the difference between, let's say, the equivalent of I guess it'll be instead of 500, let's say 50 million versus 40 million in profit, right? If those are the differences, you could still say, well, it still made a profit. You still earned $40 million off of this, right? But the corporation, but you're supposed to be now earning higher than 50, not less, right? And we're going to compare this over each quarter. And we're going to compare about the same quarter of the year, the previous year. And we're going to compare it along trends of the year. But if you're not growing, you're of no use to us, ultimately, right? So sooner or later, you get the chop. And that's what's happening here, right? So if they get another quarter of negative growth, right? If they get another quarter where they're not living up to the money that they need to be making, then the D&D department of Wizards is going to be in very serious trouble, especially if that's after they've put out, let's say, Spelljammer and Dragonlance, and they turn out to be. I don't know if Dragonlance is coming out in the next quarter. I think it might be, but I'd have to check. But if they turn out to do badly, that's going to be a big problem for them. And you know what? I couldn't be happier. Let's put it this way, because frankly, people should not be buying products from people who despise them. The people making Dungeons and Dragons books right now for Wizards of the Coast despise you if you're a regular gamer. Don't buy their products. Buy OSR products instead. There's tons of great OSR products. And of course, I review a lot of other people's great OSR products, and I also have my own stuff like Sword and Caravan, World of the Last Sun, Lion and Dragon. The RPG Pundit Presents series, which is a PDF series, has 108 issues. You can check the links to all of these games in the description below. The PDFs can cost anywhere from 99 cents to $4.99. And, most of my other books are not unreasonably priced, right? I think Lion and Dragon, like the soft cover print on demand is like $22 or something like that, 23 maybe. So that's a really good deal, right? For Lion and Dragon, for a complete RPG that is better than any RPG, I would say the better any RPG that Wizards has ever put out for sure, right? Probably better than, in my opinion, than almost any D&D based RPG ever. that might be me exaggerating now because it's my personal taste. It's the game that I like to run, right? But if you want to support me, if you want to get a product that isn't going to be an attack on you and everything you love, check out my books, right? And you'll be supporting me in the process. But really what you're going to be getting is a game that you can use. If you're an OSR gamer, if you play D&D based games, then you can mix and match stuff. You can just use some of it or all of it or bits of it and bring them into your own game. So you've got usable material that you can actually play that isn't preaching at you or trying to insult you or trying to attack you or trying to convert you. It's just about gaming. And you are also supporting the cause, right? So please do. And once again, please share this video anywhere that you can. This is normally a part where I say currently smoking, but I decided to start this video on a whim today. So I didn't actually get a pipe ready before that. I was just finishing my coffee. So I guess currently drinking Vietnamese iced coffee, a big old mug of it as usual. Thank you guys. Talk to you soon.